Okay, hope you're having a great day, morning, evening, or night. It is evening, just turning in the evening, or is it like 4 p.m. for me? Anyway, so what we're gonna do is just make a really simple door, blueprint door, just using like a flip-flop, and a timeline animation. There are many ways to do door. You can make them very complicated, or very simple. So you can have a door that opens whatever way the user's facing, it will open outwards towards them. You could have a door that um, only that opens using actual physics, so you have to actually physically walk into the door. Um, you can have a door that you can only open with a lock and key, so if you have the key in your hand, then the door will open. There's so many ways to build doors and different types of doors. You can have swinging doors. You can have door that slides open. There's endless ones. But we'll start with a really simple one, and then we'll work on adding more complicated doors. So to start off with, let's build this tiny little area where we can add a door to the room. Now, what I'm gonna do is, I'm not gonna model a door. I'm just gonna use one of the doors from the Fab store, the Quixel pack, the Quixel Mega Scans models. If you don't have the Fab plugin installed, you go to Library, and if you go here and search for Fab, make sure you install the Fab UE plugin, and this will allow you to, it'll be easier for you to access the Fab store and access assets that you can bring into your project and add them to your library. So if you go here and once you install it, you'll see here, you'll say Fab, and you can click on Fab here. And here you can like purchase items. You can find free items. So you can go to your own library here, and you can find whatever assets you have in them. So if I go into browse the Quixel Mega Scan, you can see save to my library, um, and then you got a load of assets that you can use. So if I type in here in the search for door, and you can say in all Fab projects or just from the Quixel. So I'm going to say Quixel, and then I can choose to download a specific door and then add it to my project. You can also set the quality. So depending on your system, if you have a lower end PC, maybe you want to go for medium to low. If you want full high quality or raw quality, entirely up to you. I won't tell you what you need for your system. Um, I've downloaded already and added this to my project. So when I add to my project, I just save to medium. So once I've added this for my project, it appears here in the content folder. You have a Fab folder, Mega Scans, 3D, Old Wooden Door, and there's the mesh there itself. So you can see I can drop this into the scene, and place this where we want. So let's say we want to make a little room, and you have to get to this light switch, right, that we've already created. So we're just going to put the door in here in front of the light switch, right? Somewhere here is fine. And let's just put up some walls. We can use some of these blocks from the playground scene, this demo scene here, or this template. So I'm just going to Control D, duplicate this, and just move these blocks over. And what you can do, you can scale these, and we can make a tiny little room, right? Doesn't need to be perfect. I'm just going to rush this through so you can see. And I'm going to scale this out to about here. This is just so so you can we can build you can do the blueprint for the door without needing to do this. You don't need a little room to test the door, but it's just nice to just something you can see is a little separate room that you can access by pressing E to open the door. Anyway, let's make a little ceiling, move this up like so, and copy this again, duplicate about here, boop, Let's squash this in. There we go. This aligned here, and then duplicate this over here. This to the right. Like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect. I can duplicate this again, push this up, and cover the top of that doorway. There we go. So the only way to access this room is by going into this door, right? And then we can turn on the light switch. Okay. So for now, we can't interact with the model directly itself, so we need to create a blueprint actor of the door. So I'm going to delete that door. We'll put it in after. I'm going to have to fix this up a little bit. There we go. Like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect, so don't worry too much about that. Anyway, so we're going to go to content. We're going to go to our blueprints folder, blueprint actor, and we're going to create a new blueprint actor. So blueprint class actor. I'm going to call this BP underscore door 001. So this will be the most simplest door that we'll create, and then maybe we'll create a more complicated doors and different versions of doors as we progress in other videos. Okay, so we're going to go to door 1. Okay, this one. And what we're going to do is we want to bring in our static mesh, right? So we want to bring in our mesh. So we're going to add a static mesh, and you can call this door 01 if you want, whatever you know what you want to, so you know what that is. And then I'm going to just say door. Okay, I'm going to search for door. If you don't know what the name is, and if like say door doesn't come up or whatever model the mesh is, you can also go to content window and you can drag that mesh. So I can go here and drag that mesh into the slot as well of the static mesh here. Alright, so we have a door now in our viewport. So what we want to do is add some logic to this. So we want to set the relative rotation, which will be, if we change this, we want it to say, I want it to always open inwards. So inwards like this is only going one way like this. Alright, it's going back and then it will close back. In most games, it will always open away from the player. So say if I'm facing it, I'm facing the door this way and I enter the door. Say I enter the door and then the door would close, and then as I go to open the door again, instead of it opening this way, some people like to have the door always opens away from the player and then they go through. But I don't, I mean, I understand like they don't want the door clipping into the player, or um, just seems a bit smoother or nicer. It just depends on what you want. Um, I kind of like my house door, my room door right now. It only opens one way. It doesn't go both ways, like away from me. I have to pull or push. So it doesn't, it doesn't come out this way. It just goes one way and then close. So, yeah, it's up to you. All right, let me put this back to 0. So we want to go from 0 to minus, let's say minus 90 for now, or whatever you want, whatever angle you want to set that to. But we'll just do 0 to 90, right? So we need to go into our event graph, and we're going to delete these. All right. So we're going to set, we need a flip flop, right? We're going to flip flop. Make sure I spell this right. Flip flop. There we go. So we're going to go between two different values, right? And we want to set these two values. So we need to also have add a timeline. So add timeline. All right, and I'll call this the animation. You can call this whatever you want. You can, animation. I know that's the door animation, and I want A to go into play and B to reverse. Right. Now to add the keyframes for this, it's just gonna be a linear. It's just gonna be a keyframe going from 0 to 1. And then what we'll do is take the output of that and pass it through a loop and say what values we want to set. So if I double click this, you're going to set here the length of your track. So 5 seconds is way too long for a door to open, right, and close. I want to set it to something like 0.8, not 1 second, just under a second. And I'm just going to add a float track. I'm going to right click anywhere here in the for my first keyframe and set this to 0 and 0. So that's fine. Then I'm going to right click and add the second keyframe and set the value to 1 and set the time to 0.8. There we go. Now, if you can't see, if you know, you can move, you can hold down the right mouse to kind of pan the animation, or you can click on these keys to zoom to fit, so you can see your whole animation, where your keyframes are. Now, what I'm going to do is just select these two keyframes, right click on top of them, and say auto, and it'll just, you know, smooth the animation out rather than be a linear animation. Um, it'll kind of add some little bit of weight to that. And of course, you can tweak this yourself if you want. You know, you can play around with the animation itself. Yeah. So feel free to experiment with that anyway. So we can go back to our event graph. As you can see, it says new track. I forgot to name this. So here, where we created the new track, just rename this. You know, door. And then you'll see here it renames it as door. Okay. So what we need is a loop, right? And the door, this door animation will just feed into the alpha. And we're going from 0 to minus 90. So as this animates from 0 to 1, it's gonna send the rotation value from 0 to minus 90 to our relative set the relative rotation of our door. So for us to get the door, we need the door itself, and we're going to say set relative, if I can spell, relative rotation, and we want it on the z-axis. So I'm just going to right click and say split struct pin, split the pins, so we can say we want this to go only to the z-axis. And last thing we need to do, make sure the update goes into here. Okay, like this, that connects over there, so that updates the rotation. And the flip-flop, we need to add our interaction. So we go to class settings, BPI, add our interaction, double click this. Now this will trigger when we hit E, trigger the flip-flop, play the animation, and then update that rotation of the door, right? Really simple. It's small, so it's not, and we can say door. I'll call it simple door. Simple door. Okay, compile, save. Now we can go into our blueprint folder here, BP actors, grab the door, drop it into our scene. Now you're gonna have to place it facing the right way that you want. If the door opens towards us, then we just have to change it from minus 90 to 90. Okay, but right now I want to set this to minus 90, so it starts here. Okay, and place this door in here. That'll do. Okay, I'm gonna hit play. Let us do it thing, so we can, you know. Should add a little theme tune in there and also music or something. Anyway, hit E on the door, door opens. Hit E, closes. If I click here anywhere on the doorway, it doesn't have to be on the door. And now the door will open and close. Can go in, close the door. You can see. There we go. Simple door. I kind of prefer it like this, that it opens away and towards you. So, you know, there you go. And press F, close the door, turn the light on. There we go. We can now enter and exit this room. Oops. There we go. We have a simple door, and I like how, look, the light's coming through, spilling through the cracks of the door. There we go. Um, yeah, hopefully that was useful. Like I said, this is the first of many. So we've got a light system that you can, blueprint system that you can turn on and off lights. We have a simple door. We have a character that can crouch and has a light to walk around. Yeah, so we'll work on a different type of door where we pick up maybe a key, and then we say allow us to open or close that door. If we don't have the key, this door won't never open. Maybe we'll do that in the next video. Um, Alright, I'll see you in the next clip. Thank you again. It does help if you hit like, subscribe, share. If you leave a comment as well, I don't know, maybe there's something I could do differently. I know there's a million ways to do you know do logic and you know blueprints. There might be a more easier way, a more complicated way, a better way. you know Anyway, thank you again. Bye bye.